producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I think I'm CJ.
And it is a Friday.
And I saw the tanks driving down North Main Street. I don't know what's going on. It seems like war has been declared.
Yes, another, this is paralleling the Nazi takeover of the Bundestag. So,
God, I'm telling you, this is just getting ridiculous. I mean, I had to laugh. I was able to watch this redevelopment authority meeting, and once again, the mayor has the perfect explanation for what he wants to do, and it's all about take a shot in the dark. I guess you'll never imagine what all of this is about. It's all about money.
And power.
Because now
and control.
Right.
Power and control.
And I had a 4 a.m. teleconference,
4
for
a.m.
lack of a better expression, in regards to this issue, and we discussed it. I have severe issues with this for different reasons. Number one, as you know, I am no great supporter of Ken Fiola or the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction. It has yet to prove to me that they've served any useful purpose for Fall River. And the reason I say that is because their expectation, their levels that they're judged by or evaluated on is how many jobs they produced. So if I contract for 100 jobs and I produce 100 jobs, I'm fine, hooray. But if I lost 2,000 jobs because of a business closed, that doesn't come off the 100 jobs you created. Yeah. And they say, we can't do that because he has no control over what the economy is going to be like, or if somebody's going to move, or if somebody's going to stay. But when you look at the fact that a business left Fall River because the city says they don't have any land, and then the vice president of the Fall River Office of Economic Development goes on the local radio and says, we have plenty of land. I have 290 acres I want to make available to somebody. Well, why didn't you make it available to an existing business already? No, they go to Taunton and they get a TIF and they get land and they get space. Well, and it just makes no sense.
Well, what disturbs me more than, even more than that is the fact that, listen, I watched part of the meeting, and I guess after he said that the only, that the reason that he needs to take over and stuff is because he secured so many grants, and it was all because he was the mayor. He said the difference is I'm the mayor, and nobody that ever came before me, those who came before me, never got these kind of grants. That's crap. There have been grants throughout the history of the city. Maybe he's not old enough to remember them, but there's been grants. That's disrespecting all the work that the state reps did. Bob Carrere, when he was the majority whip up in Boston, brought a lot of money to the city. I'm not a big fan of grants anyway, so let me just throw that right out, because, the mayor wants the control of this because of his ability to get grants, but we can't run cities on grants. We've got to run cities by building an economy in the city, not by begging for grants everywhere. And I don't care how good you are, somebody else is going to be in line for those grants. You think Governor Charles, I don't care if you are as tight with Governor Baker as you claim, which I do not believe. But I'll tell you, he's got 350 other cities and towns in this state that he's got to placate politically. So we're not going to grab every grant and every large grant Just like we got the biggest SAFER grant in history. We're not getting another biggest grant in history for a long, long time. That's just the way it works. But what disturbs me is this power grab. This guy wants to control everything. Everything. Absolutely everything. And if I had my way, FROED would be an independent private entity. They wouldn't even be working with government. Let the businesses in this city organize an economic development committee on their own. Let them fund it because it's for their businesses, and they could probably write it off on taxes. You know, this government controls everything means government controls all the money. He wants to control everything in the community, and that's dangerous because then it no longer becomes a government. It becomes a monarchy.
Or a dictatorship.
Or a dictatorship.
Yeah,
you can be a benevolent dictator or not. And I think I'm favoring or not.
But here's the bigger issue I have here. And I'm going to play devil's advocate a couple of times here on both sides.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing is, the one thing that this mayor did well in his presentation yesterday was he did not personalize. He didn't say you. It was based on what he wants to do and his justifications. I always say don't personalize, and I'm glad he listened to that. But why did he wait so long? The RFP for the services from Jobs for Fall River that they received, that was approved by the city council in funding, was not that long ago. It was maybe 6 months ago, maybe less. Why didn't you, when that RFP was proposed, why didn't you just say, no, we're terminating services with Jobs for Fall River. We're not doing this anymore. We're putting it in-house. Wouldn't that have made more sense? Because guess what? The contract was up for renewal. But no, instead, you do it now. So what's the one rule in Fall River politics? Perceptions become reality.
Well,
so as Ken Fiola said, and here's where he made his mistake, because he turned around and he said, maybe this is because my wife is opposing him on a methadone clinic in the North End. Get the personalities out. Let's keep it on point.
but you know, that's where I have to you know, that is a valid point, and I think that he had every right to say that.
No, he did.
You know, I mean, and
Because, again,
you know,
the perception becomes the reality.
and he's not personalizing it. He was stating, you know, he was stating his opinion as long as he prefaced it as his opinion.
Right. And he
Because
did.
you know, because it seems that anybody that opposes this mayor in any way is gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the problem I have with the MO. Of this administration. It's like if you disagree, you get investigated, you got phone calls at the house, and you're interviewed by people, and you know, or if he has control over whatever position you're in, you're gone. So you know, I was told that after that meeting, he ordered them to his office.
You know,
after
that
they
would,
tabled it.
and that would have surprised me because
And
you
if
know,
that's
he
true,
does that.
that's just absolutely ridiculous. You know,
Because remember,
you
I
know, how
believe
dare you take an action that he didn't approve of? You know, this kind of stuff is just, and you know, I question the politicalness of this. You know, I don't. You know, there are a lot of questions. I mean, they're not facts, and I'm not going to portray this as a fact.
Right.
But sometimes I wonder, just as Ken Fiola, who I am not a big fan of, never have been. I think that what they do, and what every agency that works for a city or works in conjunction with a city is, they are a political economic development, not a true economic development. Because what they try to do is bring in the things that get headlines. And that's not what rebuilds Fall River. Small businesses will rebuild Fall River, not the Amazons. You're going to get one Amazon out of a million. Not the thing. We're looking at. There was an article about the new places they're putting into the new whatever they call that thing.
The old Harbor Mall.
What do they call it now?
I don't know if it's South Coast Marketplace or something.
Like, yeah, they got a restaurant in there, and you know,
The
we had a
110 Grill.
We had a conversation about that yesterday, and you know, you had already looked up where they were located. They're located in Leominster, which is an affluent suburb of Worcester. They're located in Auburn and other affluent areas.
Which don't have detox facilities.
We had not only that, and also have much higher incomes.
Yep.
And then we looked at the menu. How long do you think a restaurant in Fall River is going to last that has $17 salads and $32 steaks? Granted, there's a niche for that in Leominster, in Newton, in Wellesley. But when somebody can walk down to the Academica and get a steak for $10.95 or $11, you think they're going to go down? And this is what happened with Jerry Remy's. When Jerry Remy's with their $9 hamburgers, and they're never going to do well. This place might be one of the best places around. I've never been in one because when I go to Worcester or something like that, I have restaurants that I've gone to for years. But the fact is, probably a good place. I mean, if you're getting an aged steak and it's $32, probably a good steak. But, when you got almost a quarter of the population of the city living below the poverty level, and the average household income is less than half of the state average, that's not a place you open up this is not a super high-end restaurant, but it is an above the mean restaurant. The prices are not Fall River prices.
Yeah.
It's like, when you look at that, you go, why did they do this? They did this for the first initial political, look at this nice upscale restaurant we brought to Fall River. And I guess the new job that he's going to propose in the new budget, the culture and arts director can say, see, we've got a fairly high-end restaurant that all the people with art and culture who are going to come here, which, it's like the tourists that we've had for the last 10 years. These people are not going to come because of a facade or one restaurant. Businesses are supported by the people who live in a community. You're going to get some traffic, if you had an anchor, maybe with the new casino, but casinos have restaurants inside.
I think that's why that restaurant is probably proposed there.
Well, obviously they're not that familiar with casinos, because casinos have restaurants in them because they don't want you to leave.
No, they don't want you to step out of the building.
They don't want you to step out of it. But I mean, this is the thing that bothers me, and it's like, okay, they're doing it. I've always said I don't agree with most of what they do, and I'm not a big fan. But I question, just as he questioned I question whether there are a lot of people in the community that are not happy with FROED. There are a lot of people in the community that are not happy with Kenny Fiola. Was this a dual, and I'm saying this, I'm not saying this is a fact, but in my mind, I have to question, is this a political move? Is he trying to do this to maybe get some votes from people who don't like FROED or Kenny, and also to grab control? So it's kind of a dual attack. But those are the kind of questions that run through your mind. Why? Because of exactly what you just said, CJ. The timing.
Right.
Everything's always at the no warning. It's like he went to the December 7th school of tactics. Everything is a sneak attack with him.
Yeah, I know. It's really a shame, because, as you said, this is a political tactic, or it appears to be. And again, when you know your numbers are down, you have to say this. And the first thing he came out with in his presentation was, privatization was a great success. Our recycling program is 15 days into its position, and we've cut the cost of recycling to $46 a ton. Yeah, with the bankrupt company, which may not be able to be dumping in Rhode Island, which owes money to the state of Rhode Island, which is under investigation by umpteen number of press outlets, including us. And, there's court orders on this company, and we're funding them. So what happens if they get an order and they present it to the city through a Bristol County court, that all the payments to them now have to go to the state of Rhode Island? What happens if that money that they're supposed to pay to the city, which, by the way, they still haven't paid, they're supposed to pay beforehand, in advance, on the lease of these trucks. So we haven't gotten that yet. And this is how this company got into trouble before. They made promises. We need another year moratorium. Can't pay for another year. And they just said, hey, we're done. You know, we're just going to foreclose.
But can we truly trust his numbers? I mean, he's saying that we're saving a ton of money, but I was told from a fairly reliable source that this company there's a $700 transport fee to get it, to move it.
Right.
And another company told them that they charge $400.
Right.
So every single load that gets hauled out of this city, we're losing $300 on.
Right.
So are we really getting the best deal? Are we really saving as much money as he contends? I mean, this whole thing, as you said, it doesn't have enough liability insurance. There's questions about its legal status because it did file bankruptcy in another state. There's all kinds of questions, but he portrays it. What's he? Look, he's a politician. He's running for re-election. Everything he did was the second coming. So everything was great. He's great. He gets more grants than anybody in the world ever did. And this is privatization was the greatest thing in the world, even though it cost us over $1 million to settle that between legal fees and the buyouts. So all this stuff is great, but it's all politics, and it all falls back on a taxpayer. But what disturbs me is the method. Just like when Dave Machado was removed from the Insurance Advisory Committee with basically, just summarily dismissed with nothing in writing to this day, by the way, and without virtually any warning, he's done the same thing to Kenny Fiola. So it's not only Kenny Fiola, it's a guy who served in a non-paying position to represent the police union and then the retirees for 30-some years, and over 30 if you take his police union when he was the president of police union. He went back to 1968. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. And then he takes a guy from a position that he's been working at and doing something, and he puts in a political hack, and that committee is supposed to represent their constituency. All the other members there are appointed by their labor unions or elected. And that's the only one. That's why I'm going to attempt to change the law. So it does the same as the PEC, that the organization, i.e. the Fall River Municipal Retirees Association, designates who their representative is, not the mayor, because the mayor doesn't have a right to put a spy on a committee that's supposed to be a employees committee. So, I mean, but he also did this and I called it, and I said it on the show, it was Bush League. It's an obvious political maneuver. So when you see something like that, and then less than a month later, he does a December 7th on Fiola.
And how many more are we going to see?
That's right.
How many more are we going to see? And this goes back to the beginning of his administration. Okay, the first call out was Brad Kilby, terminated. Yep. Okay, and then he hired somebody else at a much lesser rate, and then took that excess money and moved it into somebody to pay somebody else to give his buddies more money. Okay, when he couldn't get the pay raise for Faust Fiore, he gave him the pay raise anyways, took it from somewhere else. So this child does not want to be told no. He acts like a spoiled 6-year-old when he's told no. And that creates a problem. And when you continually operate in this manner, Ken Fiola said that this wasn't a decision based in business. It wasn't good business sense. And I had to say to myself, that coming from you, Ken, I got to really think about.
and you know something? It's true.
But it was, exactly.
It's true.
It was true.
Because, maybe a lot of our viewers weren't involved in effective supervisory practices and stuff. We had to study those things as we went up the career ladder and became, chiefs and stuff. And we had to read supervisory, management books too, because you're also a manager. And one of the first things they tell you when you run a large group is you have to learn how to delegate authority. you ultimately, as the CEO, i.e. mayor or whatever, do have the ultimate say. But the fact is, when you run something, unless you think you're smarter than everybody at everything, you need to delegate authority to other people. You allow department heads to run their departments because they know more about, police chief knows a lot more about police work than the mayor does. The President of the United States cannot know a 1/1000th of what he has to know to run this nation. That's why he has a cabinet. That's why he has people working for him that the authority is delegated to. One of the marks of a really good leader is selecting quality people and experts in the field. The better the cabinet for a president of the United States, the better the president, because he'll make better decisions. And also, the better the people that surround the mayor, the more effective and better decisions he will make. But when you want to run everything and be in charge of everything, which is another issue I have with the charter to segue into that, because they want to put them on every committee ex officio.
Right.
So it's like, I don't think that, he's the mayor.
And that actually, that you mentioned it, that also gives me the idea that he truly does want control of everything, because he's trying to have the charter change in this next election to give him the ultimate authority. And of course, the, magical number 8 there, the 8 ball, I think that's how they decided it, they shook the ball and, okay, yep, that's the issue. 300, 150, yep. 20%, voter rights, no.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that this is happening. But I think one of the things that I've learned in all my years in reviewing politics and looking at what's going on is the fact that you had people like Whitey Bulger. You had Tip O'Neill. Whitey Bulger got what he wanted.
You mean Billy Bulger? Whitey was a criminal.
Well, no, look at Whitey Bulger. Look at his brother, Billy, okay?
Right, yeah.
Whitey Bulger got what he wanted, and he was free for 30 years.
That's right. Well,
30 years, nobody caught him.
But remember, his brother didn't know where he was.
Yeah, right. His brother didn't know where. But you know what? Billy Bulger was able to do anything. He got everything that he wanted. And when you pissed him off, he was like, yeah, that's okay, no problem. And then he took you out back, and you knew what was going on. Tip O'Neill said it very clearly, all politics is local. That man went out and shook everybody's hand, and even if you said something to him he didn't like, he just smiled, and that was it. And he had the issues in the back room.
Yeah, in
behind closed doors, okay? You don't make it so public. This kid makes everything public.
That's right.
It's got to be on the front page. And that's what happened. Because the redevelopment authority said, table it. 2 people didn't even bother to show up.
They were probably afraid to. I mean, who knows? But you're right. I actually, and obviously I won't name him, but I actually knew a mayor. I dealt with a mayor and negotiated with a mayor that actually had a black book. And if somebody's name came up, he would look at the book, because he had everybody that was a friend and everybody that was an enemy, and if he didn't know who that person was, if they didn't appear in the book, now their name would appear in the book with some notation, because he would have his minions go out and find out where his allegiances lied. And the fact is that it's a political reality. We understand that. But I've never, ever seen any mayor that is so obvious that he wants to basically control every single thing. And the ironic part about it is that's all he wants to do is control, because he really doesn't do any mayor job. Now, he doesn't do mayor work because does he have, he's got a city administrator. He's got a CFO. He's got more help than we ever had in the history of the city of Fall River to actually run the city. So what's his job? To sit in the office and figure out how he can control every single aspect and every single dollar that is flying around the city of Fall River?
But the interesting thing is that was in his presentation. He wants that office now in his office. He wants that office, and he wants to merge. Now, here was the key, and I think everybody probably missed this. He wants to merge economic development with tourism.
Oh, then the art and culture. Here comes the art and culture
Yeah,
director. There he comes. I can hear him. He's on a horse. He's coming.
The 4 horses of the apocalypse
That's
are
right.
all coming together.
Yeah,
So,
behold the pale horse.
I think during Bush's time they called, what he's creating so far an axis of evil. So you've got economic development, tourism, and then arts and culture. The new axis of
The
evil.
arts of culture. He is the pale rider. Behold a pale horse, and upon him sat a rider, and that rider's name was Death.
Death.
And that's what's going to happen to the economy of Fall River. So,
It's just this entire episode is a debacle and a half, and I really want to see if he truly follows form, and all of a sudden people start disappearing.
and you know what gets me though? It's like when he gets his mindset, you can't negotiate.
No,
with
you
him
can't.
because it's like, I mean, I believe that the whatever they call themselves, up in the industrial park, the industrial parks organization there, whatever they,
Yep.
well, I don't know the exact name of it. They came out and voted unanimously. They didn't favor this action.
Right.
So, I mean, Jesus, you want to talk about economic development in the city, and virtually mostly every businessman in the city, every businessman in the industrial park said, we don't want to do this right
That's
now.
the Fall River Industrial Park Association.
All right, yeah, well,
FRIPA.
Frippa. But he wants to create Flipper. So we can have a dolphin.
Flipper,
Yeah, that's right.
faster than lightning.
But I mean, this is what gets me. I mean, he's got people saying, look, if you want to do this, let's look at it. Let's have some, as that, the Industrial Park Association said, why don't we talk about this and make this a, in other words, let people weigh in. Let people who have an interest. Like, look, we're sitting here. Besides the politics of what's happening, we don't have a dog in this fight. But people who own businesses in the city of Fall River and in the industrial park do have a dog in this fight. So you're not going to listen to them? You're not even going to consider what they say? You're just going to go dead ahead Ed. Remember Ed King? That's what they called the governor.
Yeah.
Dead ahead Ed. He put his head down and tried to run through a wall head first. So, I mean, this is what gets me on a lot of levels, because he seems to be impervious to anybody else's opinion. It's like, well, I don't care what the businessmen want to do. I'm going to deal with. I know better than everybody who's making money in the city. There are not too many profit-making businesses in Fall River, and a lot of them are located in the industrial park. You think if you were going to talk about economic development, you'd bring them in just like the trash. It just appeared on everybody.
Right.
I'm the mayor. This is the way it's going to be done. There are going to be no hearings. We're not going to do a thorough investigation. We're not going to really do the numbers. I got the numbers. They're right. Forget about it, and let's just keep going.
Yeah, but if you took a peek around that room, and they had to move it to the city council chamber because they didn't have enough room in the hearing room. They were violating the fire code. You looked around the room, and you know what I saw? $150 a ticket, $150 a ticket, $150 a ticket, $150 a ticket, $150 a ticket. Well, you know what? If that room is all $150 tickets and it's divided in half, you got a financial problem coming up too. So,
well, it's just like I said. This is just it's in my opinion, and I'm sure his proponents think this is the greatest thing in the world. As I said, everything is in the eyes of the beholder.
He can't do anything.
He's taking a bull by the horns. Well, he's doing. There's no process for the taxpayer or the businessmen in the city of Fall River. So there's our music. Stay angry. You got plenty to be angry about, and we'll see you next week.
We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. And remember, Weekend Flush comes out on Sunday. Have a great day.